Hi everyone, Steve Flanders here to talk to you about the Log Insight Importer, which is a new command line utility that was made available in Log Insight 3.3 earlier this year. I want to talk about what it is, kind of how it's different from the agent, as well as how to use it. So first, who am I? I am an architect and senior manager at VMware, working in the Cloud Management Business Unit, working on the Log Insight product as well as vRealize operations. And if you're interested in learning more about specifically Log Insight, be sure to take a look at my Twitter and my blog. I cover it extensively. So quick, just a high-level overview of what Log Insight is. It's a log aggregation tool. It's allowed for correlation, alerting, reporting, right? So we want to get messages in, unstructured data in. That's primarily done via syslog. But we also have this Log Insight agent. And this agent runs on both Windows and Linux, and it's used for real-time log collection. So if you're writing to the end of a file log, right, we want to collect those messages, ingest them, and be able to query the data back out. We can also selectively forward that information as well as store it on NFS share for archival purposes. So the Log Insight agent supports real-time ingestion into Log Insight. What does the importer do? Well, it's meant for more archival type things. So maybe a support bundle. If you have a support bundle, that's an offline collection of logs that have been zipped up. We want to ingest that with the importer. Maybe you have a problem in your environment, and at the time you didn't have something like Log Insight there, and you'd be like, this would be really handy to troubleshoot the existing logs on my systems. Well, we can actually take those logs, even if they're uncompressed, and we can import them, right? So basically it leverages our ingestion API, which has a bunch of benefits above the syslog RFC. I actually cover some of those benefits on my blog, but things like compression, dedupe, batching, parsing, as well as bookmarking, remembering where it left off so we can support extended outages should the client and the server not be able to communicate. But one of the most common questions I get is, what is the difference between the agent and the importer? And there are some rather important distinctions. Let me try to call them out. First, agent, real time. What does real time mean? I mean that the time between the client and the server, the log messages, is less than 10 minutes. Anything more than that, we're talking about the importer at that point. And the agent runs as a daemon, where the importer is really a command line utility that you run just in time. I mean, you can wrap it in a script and run it more frequently, but that's not the primary use case, right? So here it is, we have a delta greater, maybe it's a support bundle, maybe it's just older logs, and we want to run it offline. So one use case I've seen is that people collect logs, they write it to a file every hour. They only do it once an hour, right? So they don't want to use the agent because it's no longer real time. The importer would be a good use case for that. The agent is available for Linux and Windows. Guess what? The importer is available for Linux and Windows, so there's no delta there. We can send events over the ingestion API as well as syslog for the agent. So we do support third-party syslog providers. The importer is just the ingestion API today, so the importer is meant for Log Insights. Now, the ingestion API is documented, is officially supported. So if you actually code against the ingestion API, you could have the importer send to a third-party destination. That's fine. There's support for WinLog and file log collection with the agent. WinLog would be things like Windows Event Viewer. File log is anything on the file system that you're looking to collect. Those must be specified in configuration sections. You would have one configuration section per directory with the agent, and by default, we would collect log and text files for you. You can customize if you want to collect other files, but by default, it's just those two. With the importer, we're only supporting file log at this point, and it now supports recursive directories. So we only have to have one configuration section for directories and subdirectories, where with the agent, we have to have one configuration for every single subdirectory. We also default to including all files with the importer versus just the limited log and text files. We support parsers with the agent. We support parsers with the importer. We support client and server-side configuration. This means I can deploy the client, the agent, on as many clients as I want, and from the Log Insight server UI, I can specify a configuration, and it will get propagated down to all of them. Basically, it's a configuration management tool. In the case of the importer, it's just client-side configuration. So we have this notion of manifest files. It's very similar to an agent configuration file, but you must manage that yourself on your endpoints, wherever you're running this. Finally, the agent does not require authentication. The importer only requires authentication when you want to use the honor timestamp flag. I'll talk more about this in a second. But the reason for this 10-minute delta, replay attacks, security, right? That's the use case. So we have a way around this. You authenticate to tell us that we should trust you. If you're part of the system, then we can. The agent does not support compression, while the importer does. So again, importer would be used for support bundles while the agent would not. All right, so there's a bunch of command line flags here. I'm not going to cover all of them. There's a lot of information on this slide. All you need to know is that the first two flags are the only ones you need. Source and server. Where are the files that you're trying to collect, and where do you want me to send them? It's the only thing required. There's a whole bunch of defaults for you that handle most of this. You want to customize it? You have your own manifest file? Great. You want to log to a different directory? Go for it. You want to add your own tags or metadata? That's great. You want security and SSL when you send the importer? We support that as well. So it's very extensible and flexible, but by default you have to specify very, very little. Now, let me walk you through some examples of how to use this importing utility. Example number one, let's assume that I have a single directory. So you'll see here I have this test1 directory, and in it contains a subdirectory with test1.log. So what I want to show you is what is the delta between what an agent configuration file looks like and an importer manifest file looks like. The only delta is the directory line. With the agent, it's an absolute path. I know exactly where it is in the file system. With the importer, it's a relative path because I could be using a support bundle, right? So what directory is it located? So you can see that here, only that line changes. The configuration section's the same, the includes are the same. So there you go, absolute versus relative, and the agent does not support directory globbing today, so you must specify a true directory. The importer does support globbing. That's how it supports recursive directories, and that's also why it can support a support bundle. So do note that globbing, in the case of the directory, we support single asterisk or double asterisk. Single asterisk means only that directory, no subdirectories. Double asterisk, I'll show in a second, actually supports subdirectories as well. So let's do nested directories next. So we have our subdirectory 1, 2, and 3 here. Inside subdirectory 2, we have a log file. Inside subdirectory 3, we have a log file. So what does the agent configuration versus manifest look like? Well, the agent configuration is much larger. I have to have a configuration section for every single directory. I don't have to do that with the importer, so all I got to do is specify the double asterisk. Life is good. So I go to 3 lines instead of having north of 9. So again, absolute versus relative path. You can do recursive directories with the importer. You cannot do that with the agent today. We are looking for that. If you're interested in that feature request, please go to loginsight.vmware.com. It's a free online community that anyone can sign up for and either vote for existing or create new feature requests. We do take those very seriously, so we're looking for your feedback on what to implement. Now, let's assume that we have another example here with the nested subdirectories where I only want to collect one of the subdirectories, but not all 3 of them. Or I only want to collect 2 of them and not 3 of them. How do I go about doing that? Well, I can either say collect everything and exclude one subdirectory, or I can explicitly call out the 2 configuration sections. Again, flexibility as you see fit. Next up, let's talk about compressed nested directories. So more of the support bundle use case here. So let's say I have this tarball test3. We extract it, and it contains a log file as well as nested tars and zips, right? We uncompress that. We have subdirectories and more files. This is a pretty complicated but very standard support bundle that you would see. Something from vSphere, for example. Well, how we go ahead and support that? Again, in the case of the agent, right off the bat, we don't support compressed directories, so you have to go manually uncompress it or write some sort of wrapper script that does it for you. And then again, we have to configure every single directory independently, so different configuration sections. I got 3 lines on the importer here. Seamless, easy, straightforward. And I can reuse, right? So it's very simple for me to take the agent configuration file and convert it into a manifest. There's not much work involved with that. What do you need to know about this? Well, agent doesn't support compression. Same thing with absolute and relative paths. The importer only supports a limited number of compressed formats today, not all of them. If you're looking for more of them, please vote for that on loginsight.vmware.com. We, of course, will be looking to enhance this in the future. Finally, on our timestamp, I mentioned the timestamp must be between 10 minutes on the client and the server. If you're using the importer, you probably have older logs, a day, a week, a month old, right? And the thing is, you don't want to ingest them the moment that Log Insight sees them because you care about the historical data. You probably want to do troubleshooting and root cause analysis, which means that timestamp is very important to you and you actually want us to trust it. Well, in order to trust it, you must authenticate. You must provide username and password in the Log Insight server that we recognize. So, how do we go about doing this? Well, let's go ahead and create this test4 log file, and you can see that it contains an ISO certified timestamp in the message itself, and the message is hello from test4. And so what do I need to do in order to get that ingested? Well, we use this parser. We have a timestamp parser. We actually have many parsers. CSV, comma separated values, KVP, key value pair, CLF, Apache common log format. A lot of extensible ways in order to get information out of your logs automatically. The timestamp parser does just that. It gets the timestamp. So what we have to do is we have to specify the directory that we care about. Of course, we can use globbing here, and we have to specify the parser. So net result is the config looks exactly the same. The difference is when you actually pass the parameters, one of the parameters is username and password. When I showed the slide with all the flags, one of them was username, one of them was password, one of them was on our timestamp. Pass those 3 flags, we'll go ahead and trust it. Right? That assumes that this parser is specified correctly. If you do not specify the parser correctly, then we will use the time of the ingest. So you want to make sure you have the right config for this. Now, important things to note here. Again, replay attack, security. This is why the 10 minutes things matter. In the case of the agent, we can use the timestamp parser as well. So it's not specific just to importing of logs. With the agent, you can trust, but that trust only extends to 10 minutes, and the agent does not support authentication today. So only the importer will give you that functionality. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Log Insight, there's a variety of sources available to you. I mentioned loginsight.vmware.com. That's a great community to not only submit feature requests, but also content packs. Content packs actually can include the agent groups that you need for your Log Insight agent. You can actually convert those into importer manifest files that you can leverage. We actually even posted one for ESXi. So there's plenty available for you. If you're looking for others, please submit them there. You can also get a free 60-day eval of this. In case you didn't know, if you own vCenter Server, you already own Log Insight. There's 25 free OSI available as part of vCenter Standard or greater. If you have NSX, you also own Log Insight. If you have vRealize Suite, you have Log Insight. You have vCloud Suite, you have Log Insight. Everyone has Log Insight. So please try it out, take it for a spin. I hope you like it. And feel free to reach out to us on social media such as vMLogInsight on Twitter. If you're looking for more information, take a look at my blog, sflanders.net/log-insight is all Log Insight information, not only from me, but from everyone in the community talking about it, things like YouTube videos, tweets, and other people's blogs. If you're looking for anything else, please let me know. Thanks so much.